everybody, and welcome to the Our Days News Video Euro Conference. We are talking to you from the heart of St. Petersburg in the Russian Federation, and we are delighted to welcome people from all over the world in theory, but we have guests today in Europe. I'll start with my colleague here, Oleg Ivanov. Oleg, the last time we met, it was online. You were in Latvia. You are now here in Russia. You've spent a long time fighting anti-Russian prejudice that grew up in Latvia after the collapse or controlled demolition of the Soviet Union.
I was in Estonia actually, and our legal wife was in Estonia. Hello, everybody. Glad to hear you. Happy that we can have a possibility to speak, to negotiate, to share, to present our vision and our opinions concerning to the processes which are going in the world and in Europe at the moment. First of all, I would like to say hello and thank you, Max. Hello and to greet the persons that I have gathered today for our conference, and I would like to speak some words concerning how it is going on at the moment. At the moment, we are facing the juridical process against my colleague. We had started the Max, do you hear me? Do you hear me, colleagues?
Yes.
Very good. Because somebody does not hear me. Somebody doesn't hear me. First of all, I would like to start with the process which are being held at the moment in Estonia. In Estonia, we are facing the juridical process against my colleague, against Ivo Peterson, with whom we had started the party. We had went through the elections quite successfully. The quantity of the votes was so great that they had to steal from us the votes on the electronic basis. And yesterday was the first process starting, and yesterday was the first meeting of our let's say our people, our supporters who had gathered around the court. Actually, quite many people have come, more than 150 people had come. The media was there, all Estonian media was there, and our top secret service, Kapo, that is named the Security Service in Estonia, had tried to make it to give the process top secret status, not to show the people what is going on in the court. And the journalists yesterday had succeed to get through into the hall, into the rooms where the process was held, and they had interviewed Ivo Peterson. And of course, the first opinions from the procuracy and from our lawyers who represented to the court, the position of this is very weak, because the arguments are just, let's say, just a fantasy.
Could we just point out what exactly are the accused of? What are the charges?
The accusations are the following. Ivo Peterson had traveled to Mariupol, to Donbass, and had shown the people of Estonia the real picture, the real situation there. Interviewed the people who are living there, and that was the main, let's say, the main point of the accusation. Now they think that they are accusing him as a spy, a Russian spy, FSB, and a betrayer of national interests of Estonia. And the arguments are the following. First of all, the main accusation is that he had gone to Mariupol. The second is that he had met the people who had sanctions from the West, as if he is obligated to check everyone
Mm-hmm.
who is meeting. And the third main, the basic accusation is that we had created the political party and we had taken part in the elections.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the main, the basic accusation of the juridical process being started again against Ivo Peterson from the procuracy. And of course, the lawyers are very sure about concerning our position. Absolutely sure that he will be let's say that the process will be stopped against him and he will win all the process, because the arguments are once again are very, very weak. So there are no laws in Estonia which is written that it is forbidden to visit Mariupol. It is forbidden to speak with the Russian journalists. It is forbidden to take part in the elections and to declare that Estonia must be neutral country, really sovereign, neutral country, not to take part in the wars against our neighborhoods. So that is the main key position. And of course, for me, the most important success yesterday was first, very many people coming to show that they are not afraid. Very many ethnical local Estonians and Russians living in Estonians came yesterday and showed the government that they are not afraid, that they are fighting for the truth, that they are fighting for the right to live in peace. And the most big problem for our government is the union between local Estonians and local Russians in order to live in peace, harmony, and to create the let's say the cooperation with their neighborhood, not the war, not to provocate the war, but to create the cooperation between Estonia, Latvia, Finland, and Russia. That is of course the biggest problem. They are so afraid. They're so afraid of the potential which is coming as a result of such a uniting Estonians and Russians. They are so afraid about it, and they are so shocked how many ethnical local Estonians are uniting our political party. That of course they are thinking, how is it possible to stop it? One example, the bus came which was driving with Estonians from Tartu to Tallinn yesterday, was stopped by police on the way to Tallinn, and they were checked everybody in the bus concerning of alcohol, narcotic.
Alcohol is illegal in Estonia since when exactly?
Driving license and documents. Can you imagine? 2 police cars had stopped the bus and checked everybody who was sitting in the bus. Are they using alcohol? Are they using some narcotics? And do the driver has all these documents? Can you imagine how are afraid the government? How are they afraid of the potential coming as a result of uniting Estonians and Russians? So I'm very happy that ethnical Estonians are massively uniting our party. I'm very happy that people living in Estonia understand that we do not have to go to the war against Russia, but we have the possibility to live in peace and cooperation. And of course, this process started after 4 so-called magic drones which were landed with stop in the airport. And of course, the people in Estonia understood that now the situation is really, really dangerous. And Britons are provoking the war again between Estonia and Russia. And after that fact, we had seen massive applications to our body. Estonians understood that they have to act in order to keep the peace in their country.
Okay, thank you very much. The immediate question I think we should talk about in a minute is what exactly is the motivation of the Estonian government, Western governments in general, for this constant increasing war towards Russia? Obviously, since when we last spoke, the very serious war in Ukraine was already well underway. Now in the world, we have another very serious war in Gaza, in Israel, in Palestine, with colossal loss of life. We will come and cover all these subjects. I think before we continue, I think the best way to do this, as we had some technical problems and so on in the beginning, we're a bit behind time. I'm going to ask everybody, please, who's online with us to introduce yourselves. This will be by far the quickest and easiest way. Then we will continue to discuss what is the real motivation behind this constant pressure of European countries to make war on the Russian Federation. Lena, could I start with you, please? Nice to see you again.
Yes, I'm honored. I'm honored to be here. I am a Finnish journalist. I spent 20 years in Estonia. My name is Leena Hietanen, and I have been always very against this de-Russification policy in the Baltics. And that's why I am like, I know this Israel question in the sense that I don't accept these ethnocracies like Estonia, Latvia, Ukraine, and Israel. They are all connected. That's my expertise in this discussion.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Tiberio Graziani from Italy. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes. Good day, everyone. Yes. I am Tiberio Graziani, the chairman of Vision and Global Trends. That's a portal, an international institute for global analysis. I am also the editor-in-chief of Geopolitica, is a magazine devoted to international affairs and, of course, geopolitics. Yes.
Thank you very much. Hichem Lemisi from France. Welcome.
Good. Is that me or somebody else?
Hichem.
Oh, sorry. I think there was somebody else. All right.
Oui, we can't hear you. Hichem, we can't hear you. Nous avons un problème avec le son, là. Okay, comme Carpentier, let's go to you as we can hear you. We'll come back to Hichem Lemisi.
Yes, good afternoon. Good morning.
Comme Carpentier, welcome. Nice to see you again. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, well, nice to see you too. I live in India. I am French. And I bring out a journal called World Affairs, the Journal of International Issues. And among other activities, I'm a fellow of the India Foundation, which is a leading think tank associated with the government of India with its diplomacy and international relations.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. We also have Karol Masalski.
Hi, I'm Carol. I'm actually studying in a master in international relations. I'm only here to hear the debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And Diana da Silva. Okay, let's try Hichem Lemisi again from France. Welcome.
Yes, welcome. Good morning. Do you hear me now?
Yes. Now, yes.
Perfect. I'm Hichem Lemisi. I'm between France and Switzerland. I'm secretary of the GPRI, Geneva International Peace Research Institute. and I'm also a geopolitical analyst. And I worked during maybe less than 10 years in the Middle East, like reporter on Egypt and Middle East. Yes, it's okay, I think.
Thank you very much indeed. And we have somebody called A. Scheffner has joined us. Okay, for the time being, we'll come back to that. So maybe I'll ask whoever wants to jump in first. What is the motivation behind, 10 years ago, this problem was developing, but we didn't have war in Ukraine. It's only 12 years ago that Vladimir Putin went to Kiev and celebrated Victory Day with Ukrainian President Yanukovych, and Yanukovych, excuse me. And now we have massive war. And now we have a war in the Middle East. I think these events are not separate, in my own opinion. We'll come to that. Does anybody want to jump in with their idea as to why this has happened, why we're having this kind of pressure in Baltic states, in Estonia, that Oleg has just told us about?
Lina is always ready to jump in there.
Yes, I will jump in the sense that West has wanted this war already, 30 years. This Cold War was already, beginning of this, that the Cold War was never ending. The West pushed against Russia. Russia is the first, and then comes China and so on. Maybe this is the rich, the ideologists, capitalists who think that all the riches in the world, they have to belong to the rich people. So now the West is attacking Russia. And why this Hamas came in? I think that they are involved in that sense that because the West and Israel has spent all its ammunition and weapons already to Ukraine. So Hamas also raised up, and also African countries are raising. The thing that Russia ever, started this special military operation is a very great thing, because it opened the doors also for other suppressed people. That Russia did a good thing by starting this special military operation. It started to show America that they dare.
Okay. Tiberio Graziani, do you have something to add to this?
Yes, but I prepared a speech about oasis of peace and cooperation versus arcs of a crisis, the case of Central Asia region. May I start? May I start?
Okay, over to you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Because, I have to leave at 12 o'clock. Yes, thank you. Thank you, everybody. We live in a world in full and accelerated transformation. This transformation is very clearly reflected in the field of international relations. Just as we are gradually changing the classic model of communication due to the new digital technologies, similarly, we must equip ourselves to broaden our mental spectrum without any prejudice, with intellectual honesty, with regards to relationship not only between human beings, but also between states and more generally between political and social entities. The Soviet collapse left us a legacy of a very critical and turbulent international system. After the first phase, called the unipolar moment, and the concomitant globalization of markets, we have witnessed at least the following three factors: the economic and the political growth of new world players, China and India, and the new national states. The second factor is the resilience of the Russian Federation after the turbulent 90s of Yeltsin presidency. And the third factor is the progressive loss of the hegemonic role of the USA. The presence of new actors implies a redistribution of power at a global level. Not accepting the idea of such a redistribution, that's the fact that nations, once on the margins of world decisions, can now co-decide with equal dignity the fate of the world is both logical and political nonsense. The attempt to hinder this trend, which we could define for simplicity as multipolar, that's the trend towards greater and wider democratization of the decision-making process at a global level, expresses arrogance and is a non-secondary source for on the current crisis of the world system. Then, hindering this trend in the name of a single interpretation of international democracy, politics, and economics, centered on a particular definition of human rights, regardless of the historical experience and political culture of the new regional and global actors, express a closed-mindedness unsuitable for the changeless of the present and future. In essence, preventing this trend expresses a refusal to exchange ideas and practice, to dialogue between civilization, and unfortunately constitutes a worrying logical and practical premise for the clash of civilization and the current global turbulence. Over the last 30 years, so-called crisis arcs have increased in different geopolitical quadrants. The latest in chronological order are the Russian-Ukrainian and the Israelo-Palestinian ones. It is not coincidental that I use the expression crisis arcs, a concept expressed by Brzezinski at the end of the 70s. We'll all remember the fundamental text of the Professor Brzezinski, The Grand Chessboard. This book describes in exemplary manner the most complete attempt on the US side to formulate a coherent hegemonic strategy at the expense of the political entities present in the Eurasian continent mass. As also explicitly stated by the author himself in the introduction, Brzezinski writes, but in the meantime, it's absolutely essential that no power emerges capable of establishing its own dominion over Eurasia and thereby challenges America. The purpose of this book is precisely to formulate a broad and coherent Eurasian geostrategy. The tension between conservative forces aimed at maintaining their hegemony and the growing weight of new global players determines even dramatically current international politics. In this book, the USA political scientist, but also Carter's national security advisor, identified some regional areas likely to become crisis arcs in the near future. Among these, we remember the Caucasian region, Georgia, that of Central Eastern Europe, Ukraine, Afghanistan, and in particular the Central Asian region. The Central Asian region, according to Brzezinski, was susceptible to becoming the Balkan of Eurasia, a large geopolitical black hole. If by mere school hypothesis today, in the current historical moment, the Central Asia countries, in particular the two main ones in the area, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, sided with one of the two contenders, Russia or Ukraine Western Bloc, and were therefore to fail in their traditional multi-vector foreign policies, the specter of plunging the entire Central Asia region into a chaos that brings to mind the bloody Balkan wars risks turning into a dramatic reality. Now, if we realistically assume a different criterion, a paradigm based not on the US hegemonic claim to hinder the development and growth of any Eurasian country, but on the idea of governing in a shared manner the process of democratization of world decisions, recognizing the strength and the legitimacy of the new global actors, then the areas likely to become crisis arcs would be transformed into potential island of peace and cooperation in the hinge of the new world order. In the USA, there are those who have asked themselves the problem of their country's role in a multipolar world. Among these, the Professor Jeff Sachs, economist at Harvard University and a member of the Pontifical Academy of Science, and the realist political scientist John Mearsheimer. Sachs writes in his article of April 22-23 entitled "The Need for a New U.S. Foreign Policy." I quote, "The aim of U.S. foreign policy is a U.S.-dominated world, which the U.S. writes the global trade and financial rules, controls advanced technologies, maintains military supremacy, and dominates all potential competitors. Unless the U.S. foreign policy is changed to recognize the need for a multipolar world, it will lead to more wars and possibly World War III. The Professor Sachs reminds us that the USA has just 4% of the world's population and lacks the economic, financial, military, and technology capabilities to dominate the remaining 96%. Let us return to the Central Asia region. This region, instead of becoming the Balkans of Eurasia, assumed a third-party position in today's crisis between the West and Russia, would begin to lay the foundation for the formulation of its specific geopolitical identity, a more accentuated functional geoeconomical level. It would therefore become a real hinge between Russia, China, and Europe. The uniqueness of this region lies in the varied and heterogeneous ethno-cultural composition, in the profound and common Turkish cultural substratum. For the current leadership of the Central Asia countries, young national states of just 30 years old, find their own specific place in the new multipolar framework constitutes a challenge and a historical responsibility at the same time. The historical task that awaits them is broad. It concerns raising the social and economic level of the entire area and in making it as balanced as possible at the regional level. This task was a responsibility currently falls mainly on the leadership of the two most structured countries in the entire area, Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. The consolidation of a relation within the Central Asia region, the launch of a large infrastructure program in agreement with the main regional players, the launch of a joint multi-vector foreign policy that takes into account the relation with Russia, China, Turkey, and Europe, strengthening cooperation with regional actors for more effective regional security. In the immediate future, as part of building their own geopolitical identity and geoeconomic function, aimed at making the Central Asia region an area of peace and cooperation, Central Asia leadership should seize the opportunity to participate in the peace process by supporting the various initiatives in act, from the negotiating ones promoted by Turkey to those of the Vatican, China, South Africa, Brazil, and Indonesia. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, for sure. In fact, the British government has been openly bragging about how it's going to and is interfering in influencing opinion in Central Asia. In particular, I think they're targeting Kazakhstan. It does seem that Kazakhstan is probably the most fragile country. There was an attempt at a color revolution not long before the special military operation started. That was put down. So we come again to the question, what is their motivation for doing this? Does it benefit the average American or European citizen that their politicians seem to be trying to take over the world in a total hegemony, total control of everything? Does anyone want to enter with them? Ishem?
Yes, maybe I can tell something in the continuation of the communication of Lina, in the question of why European and Americans are supporting too much the war, the continuation of war in Ukraine. We have to understand, and I agree with Lina, that the Cold War in reality is not finished. That after the Cold War, US wanted to provoke the strategic collapse of Russia. But in the same time, for Americans, the potential enemy was Europe, and they were focused on ideological control of Europe. And the ideological control of Europe was a success. And we see now how the European politicians, governments, media are supporting too much the war in Ukraine. And it's totally against interest of European population and European economy. We are observing now the collapse of European economy indirectly caused the war in Ukraine. But it was something new that in part Europe now is totally ideologically controlled by US with a lot of like lobbies, politicians like young leaders, etc. You know, this system. But in the same time, the Western countries, especially Americans, didn't think that it will be in the future grow up of imperial historical powers, countries like China, like India in a certain part. Or now we are seeing the new interest and the new geopolitical importance of Iran, of Arabic countries, especially Saudi Arabia. We will in the future a very important geopolitical actor. Then it's very strange to see in a part Europe in control of US. The lake of this analysis of idea of collapse of Russia, it was not a success because it's actually, we can say the contrary, Russia is winning the war in Ukraine. Then it's very interesting to see that in reality, for your question, it was an objective of control of US, but without idea of emergency of new actors like China, like BRICS in general.
Okay, thank you very much. So where does this leave us? I mean, where are we going? In Estonia, do you think that the people of Estonia can change this situation, can change their government? I just want to say, I was in France 5 years ago for quite a long time while the presidential election was taking place. I saw Emmanuel Macron come from absolutely nowhere. I saw him on the first debate with lots of candidates. He was the most useless candidate of the lot. And I said, he's had it. That guy is never going to be anywhere. Then came the second debate, and he won this debate with Marine Le Pen, who seemed to me to deliberately lose. These people seem to be just placed there by an invisible authority which is running this show somehow. Can any European country, Estonia or France, Italy break free from this? I don't have hope for Great Britain at the moment, unfortunately.
I would like to add some words concerning to these that we were heard by our colleagues. First of all, I would like to keep in mind that dear colleagues, when the war in Israel had started, the USA government had done some quite interesting declarations. First of all, they were pointed to the Europeans. The main issue of the declarations being done by the USA government after starting the war in Israel was the following: we do not have the possibility at the moment to help Ukraine to give more weapons to Ukraine because we have to do it to give to Israel. But you, Europeans, you should give more money, weapon, and you should continue giving the weapons to Ukrainians. So it means that United States of America are giving the orders to European governments that they should continue to ruin their economy, to invest just to present the money to Zelensky, because we know perfectly that the money which they are sending to Ukraine is just a currency, and it is just thrown away. It is thrown away. We all perfectly know that nobody will see the result of this money. We had seen with our colleagues during last year that United States of America had invested $115 billion to so-called Ukraine's war, so-called Ukraine's victory against Russia. And we know perfectly that the main sum of this investment had came back to the United States of America, to the military economy, to the military factories, by using the crypto exchange and using the cryptocurrency, not to presenting it to the world, just to hide it. And nowadays we are facing the situation that United States of America officially are declaring that they are helping Israel, and they are not ready to help Ukraine. And of course, that is the most big, terrible problem of Zelensky. That's why we had seen the declarations yesterday and the day after yesterday from his colleagues, from his generals, that they are not ready to fight against Russia. They are losing. They are losing this contra attack on the Mariupol and on Zaporozhye and all those locations like that. And of course, if we are coming back to your questions, answering your questions, you know, when the elections had been taken place in Slovakia, nobody believed that they will win it. Then the reasonable people will come to the power, and the reasonable people will win the elections.
Good point.
Yes, now we understand that there are as minimum as two reasonable states in Europe, Slovakia and Hungary, which are already meeting, speaking, negotiating, and showing to the people that they are ready to cooperate, that they are ready to reconstruct the economy of the European Union, not to ruin it with the idiotic sanctions and so-called weapons to the Ukraine. We are facing the situation. We know exactly that it doesn't help Ukrainians. They are just stealing these weapons, which is coming to Israel, which is coming to Hezbollah, and we're using this weapon. Hezbollah is attacking Israel. We knew the situation, and we faced it at the moment. So it is the first one. The second, we do not have a choice. We just do not have a choice. We have one issue. One way is to go and to die, trying to fight against Russia, and another way is just to survive and to construct, to cooperate, and to build our economy from zero back to the normal situation which we had when the USSR collapsed. Because Gorbachev and Yeltsin had presented, just given for free, the harbors, the railway, the infrastructure, the factories, the economy, just presented without any money for free to Estonians, billions of dollars which were invested in the economy of Estonia. Now we're facing the situation that Estonia is actually bankrupt. We are facing the situation of default thanks to the budget which had been confirmed by the Estonian government 3-4 weeks ago. And when we're speaking with the experts and with the professionals, financial professionals, and when we're speaking to other parties, they are just shocked because it is the direct way to the bankruptcy. And of course, the only thing that the Estonian government is ready and is able to do is to rob the people living in Estonia with additional taxes, with additional communal costs, with additional so-called defense, additional taxes for the fighting against the enemy which does not exist. And that's why, yes, answering your questions, yes, we are able to stop the war between Estonia and Russia. We are doing it at the moment. The situation before, the situation which were taking place in Estonia near the court, building of the court, had shown me that the people are ready to fight for their lives. They are ready to fight for their, for the economy, for their country, to survive and to save the country. Because we do understand, all reasonable people understand that if Estonia will start, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, we are just, we cannot divide these countries because the Baltic states are too much situated between, united between themselves. And if the Lithuania will close the Suwalski corridor between Belarus, Russia, and Kaliningrad Oblast, and if the Estonia and Finland will close the seaway to the Kronstadt, to the St. Petersburg, and as they declared it at the moment that they will do it soon, it means the war. It means the war, and that's why official representative of defensive minister of Russia had told that if you're going to close the Baltic Sea for Russia, it will be closed for all countries immediately. It was declared 2 or 3 days ago, and it was declared especially for the idiots who are trying to do it. Not to exclude the situation when they will tell after that we knew how it will end. Now you know how it will end, and now you know that if you will close the Baltic Sea for Russia, you will close it for everybody, for Finland, Sweden, Denmark, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and etc. Yes. So we don't have a choice, and we will fight for the peace in our country.
Okay, well, very optimistic message. So the geopolitical changer in this, since we last spoke, is of course since the 7th of October, when Hamas attacked Israel in the most serious attack, as far as I'm aware, they've ever managed to do. I personally am not an expert in the Middle East. I've never been there. I don't speak either Hebrew or Arabic or any other language. I know Ishem is. The first question obviously comes to mind. Many people have said this, that the border between Gaza and Israel was always so tightly controlled, one of the most tightly controlled borders in the whole world, apparently, to be compared with the 38th parallel in between South Korea or something, as I understand. Was this planned? Did somebody allow this to happen? And if so, what's the motivation behind it? Ishem, please.
Yes, you want to understand the reason of the attack of Hamas during the 7th October.
Well, I understand that Hamas and Israel have been fighting since, well, the Palestinians and Israel have been fighting since 1948. Many people say, and it seems to me from over here, from in Russia, that this was allowed to happen somehow. Can it be possible Israeli, American, European intelligence didn't know they were preparing this attack?
I understand.
And if so, why?
Okay, I understand. I think there are a lot of different reasons who can explain the success of the attack of Hamas during the 7th October. When I say success, I'm talking on the attack of Hamas commandos against the Israeli army and intelligence. I'm not talking on massacre of civilians, to be absolutely clear. And cause it was absolutely incredible to see Hamas was able to kill maybe 400 soldiers, Israeli soldiers. They kidnapped one general, very important of Israeli intelligence. It was a big surprise for Israeli army and government. I think there are a few reasons. One of the reason is that Hamas is preparing this kind of attack from almost 1 or 2 years, because with the evolution of Abraham commitment, I don't know in English. Abraham Accord. The Palestinian question was totally forgotten, was not existing, and it was used by the Israeli government for lose or forget definitively the Palestinian question. But in reality, the Palestinian people is also existing, and they wanted to push in the first line, the Palestinian question. It is the reason of this attack. Why the success of this attack? I think that the Israeli intelligence and the Israeli army is not at the same level than 20 or 30 years ago. I think that all the actors of the region are studying the evolution of war. They seen the defeat of Israel with Hezbollah in 2005, and they seen what is happened, for example, in Ukraine. In Ukraine, it was very interesting to see that the Hamas used the same tactics we seen in Ukraine in first time by Ukrainian soldiers against Russian, with using of low-cost drones, new ways of fighting methods, and now with the Russian army who is using the same tactics with big success against Ukrainians. And what is interesting, it's interesting to see that with this kind of tactics, little groups is able to do a lot of damages to big army. I don't say that they are able to win, no, but they are able to do damages most important that what was existing in the past. And I think there is a big lack of analysis on this evolution of tactical military methods. And in the same time, I can also imagine that the Israeli government was focused more on using intelligence of Mossad to see evolution of Iran interest in Syria, in Lebanon, and they were in situation to forget in a certain part what is existing in Gaza, especially that it was like an accord between Qatar. Qatar was giving money for Hamas with collaboration of Israel. It was it was an Israeli proposition at the beginning, Israeli and American proposition, with the idea, with the money we will buy Hamas and it will be finished with problem. Yes, it was, the word was agreement. Sorry.
Okay, that's kind of interesting. I wonder how many Western taxpayers know that they've been funding Hamas all this time, as well as everybody else. Some people might say, I've heard some commentators say that fundamentally Hamas is an Israeli project in order to give them the pretext, one day or not, to finish, to really take over the whole of Palestine, and one way or another, there will be no Palestinians living there anymore, and it will be a whatever you want to call it, Israeli pure state. Do you agree with this or not?
No.
It's for Lina, sorry.
Yeah, I was just wanting to say that no, I don't agree at all. Israel will never manage to do this ethnic cleansing, genocide for Palestinians. World will never accept it. Okay, this is, yeah.
Can I may I say something? Sorry. May I say? Because I have to leave, unfortunately. I had Singapore appointment at 5, since we were supposed to start earlier. I would just wanted to add to what Hisham said, that there are 2 or 3 very interesting elements that come into consideration. One is, as he pointed out, the role of Qatar, where the Hamas leadership is based. And Qatar is closely associated or even allied with Turkey. So I would assume that these 2 countries, if they didn't have a role in what happened, they probably knew ahead of time, at least to some extent. Secondly, there are the major interests connected to oil and gas offshore, where there are crisscrossing interests between the Palestinians and the Egyptians. And finally, there is the matter which has never quite died out of the new canal that the Israelis would like to between the Mediterranean and the Red Sea, bypassing the Suez Canal, and which would in fact go through the actual territory of Gaza. And if you look at Israeli strategy now, it consists in cutting off the north from the south of Gaza, pushing Gazawis to the south and possibly to the Sinai, and using the north as a full, describe it, but either a colony or even integrate it into Israeli territory for security reasons with American and NATO support. And then perhaps at some point beginning to dig that canal, which would provide Israel with an added strategic importance and with a very substantial income. These are my suggestions. Unfortunately, as I said, I do have to leave, but I'm grateful for you to have invited me and given me this opportunity.
Thank you very much for that comment. Well, so we're looking forward to seeing you next time.
Is it possible to give the question? Is it possible to have the question for the previous speaker? I would like to ask this question.
Cool, of course. Go ahead.
Do you hear me? Do you hear me? I have some questions to you, if it is possible. Hello.
Yes.
Talking to Colonel Carpentier.
Yeah.
He has to leave. Yeah.
Okay. Because my question was that quite interesting speech, and my question was that do we have some forecast how quickly will it end and how will it going to be finished? Quite interesting to know his opinion concerning the speech.
Well, unfortunately, he will maybe communicate that to us at another time because
maybe some other
he has to leave.
Are possible to show us or to give us some forecast how the situation is going to develop and how
I would like, if possible. So my name is Batko Milačić. I am a journalist and historian from Montenegro. I write about the geopolitics of Europe and also Balkans, but also Middle East. So I just want to say one thing. In my opinion, it's absolutely impossible that Israel army and intelligence services did not know what Hamas was preparing. In my opinion, they had a plan. They needed these terrorist acts, what Hamas did, for ethnic cleansing of Gaza. In my opinion, Palestinian people will have sad future. Will they make ethnic cleansing of whole Palestine or just part? That's the main thing. Please remember what we have in Nagorno-Karabakh. In Nagorno-Karabakh, we have ethnic cleansing. Azerbaijani army has close ties with Turkey, but do not remember that they have close ties with Israel. They buy a lot of Israel weapons, and Israel strategists help them also to make strategy for ethnic cleansing of Yemeni people. Just that. Regarding Baltic, in my opinion, because I'm from Montenegro, we are also a small country like Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. In my opinion, they don't have domestic independent politics. I think they just listen US embassy, and the main goal of them is to just make pressure on Russia. They are small countries, but they always keep talking negative about Russia. You know, that's like always somehow to say, keeping some conflict, keeping some pressure. I'm from Montenegro. We are historically have strong ties with Russia, but now let's say we have new government, but also earlier governments, they are all anti-Russian. Although the majority of people is pro-Russian, the government is anti-Russian. Why? Because we have so strong pressure from US embassy. Basically, it's not that they hide, they came open and you know, they openly tell, okay, you must impose sanctions to Russia, you must give money to Ukraine. We don't care, does Montenegrin people have money, are schools good, are hospitals good? We want money for Ukrainian army, and our government is doing that. And just one point out, when we talk about crisis in Europe pressure, in my opinion, I was 10 days ago in Bosnia in conference in Republika Srpska, and I was watching a situation there. In my opinion, the things are escalating. And now, President of Republika Srpska, Milorad Dodik, is in court, and basically, U.S. ambassador in Bosnia is cheating to him. So we have their Dayton agreements after a bloody war in 90s, and Republika Srpska basically officially is not independent state, but has a lot of integrity and sovereignty. Now, U.S. embassy and local Bosniak politicians wants to take them that. And now we have such a big pressure. In my opinion, now we have war in Ukraine. So we will not have war in Balkans. But after war in Ukraine is over, in Bosnia, it will be very, very tough. Also situation in Kosovo, where we have, how to say, little ethnic cleansing of Serbs, and Serbia is buying a lot of army. It's so strong pressure on Serbia that, in my opinion, I see analysts in Europe do not pay attention to situation in the Balkans, but here is becoming very hot, very hot. In my opinion, we will have big problems here, and they will affect also Europe. Also, let's not, when we talk about right-wing movements in Europe, parties, do not forget migrants that make big problems. Now we have like also anti-Semitism, like also in US, in Israel, they talk about problem with migrants in Europe and anti-Semitism. Some local politicians are strong, like in Germany. It was until recently impossible to talk about departure of migrants. Now we have that. Now we have plans. I read recently that Giorgia Meloni, Italian Prime Minister, want to make camps in Albania for few thousand people of migrants. So they want to take them from Italy. In my opinion, the situation in Europe will not get stabilized very soon.
I agree with you.
One question for you, please. We have just discussed the situation in Hungary, in Slovakia, and many political experts are waiting the same situation in Bosnia and Montenegro, and in your state as well. What do you think about it, first of all? And why I'm asking, of course, it is now a tendency. Actually, 4 days away were elections in Moldova were held, and the Dawn had won them quite strongly, quite powerfully, and many political experts are waiting the same situation and the same, I would say, reasonable parties to come to the power also in your state. What do you think?
So in Montenegro, I'm from Montenegro. Let's be just direct. I'm ethnic Serb from Montenegro, so I follow situation in Serbia, Montenegro, Bosnia, and I travel quietly in Serbia, Bosnia. So in Montenegro, we have now a new government. The prime minister is Milojko Spajic. He lived in the West, also in Japan. He is totally pro-Western. Let's say half or more than half of his voters are Serbs, which are pro-Russians. But the pressure, media control in Montenegro is absolutely from the West. You know, Russia did not do a lot of things here. I cannot understand like why Russia don't watch what US is doing. You know, when Russia plays like in Montenegro in the Balkans, it's always on one card. They don't have few lines of power. In Montenegro, we have now in government, if can we say like that, democratic fronts. They are pro-Russians, but they don't are members of government. Only president of parliament is Andrija Mandić. He is president of New Serbian Democracy, of Democratic Front. He is pro-Russian, but the new government did not allow Democratic Front to take, let's say, third of the government or half of the government. All the government is pro-Western, and it is a big pressure. Why? That's I also talked about that in Bosnia. In Montenegro, we have like 40% of people that are Serbs, and also a significant part of Montenegrins is pro-Russians. But we don't have in Montenegro, let's say, pro-Serbian party like we have in Bosnia. In Bosnia, we have Milorad Dodik, we have strong Serbian party, or the majority of Serbs is one party. We have Dayton peace agreements, and we have strong decentralization. You cannot make, like, go to NATO, take sanctions to Russia if the Serbs do not agree. Because the Serbs in Bosnia made strong decentralization. In Montenegro, we do not have that. In Montenegro, let's say Serbian party main, New Serbian Democracy, which is very powerful, they are having civic politics. And you cannot make changes with civic politics in Montenegro. Only with ethnic politics. We have that in Macedonia, with US government helped Albanians. They make Ohrid agreements, and now basically Macedonia is divided. You cannot, by Ohrid agreements, you cannot make a government in Macedonia without Albania, the strongest Albanian party. Ethnic Albanians in Macedonia make no less than 20%. We Serbs are now like 35–40% in Montenegro. But we don't have ethnic policy. Like, just this is important that you hear, know. In Montenegro, we have like security services, Secret Service, police, Ministry of Defense, Military Intelligence Agency, Ministry of International Affairs. They are all controlled by ethnic Montenegrins. Ethnic Montenegrins make 90, you made in some ministries 100% of employees. In a country where ethnic Montenegrins made 43% of population. And the majority of ethnic population is pro-Western. And in that way, so when we have elections, like the race is 100 meters, ethnic Montenegrins just unite with local minorities, Albanians, Bosniaks. Serbs cannot win. And in this way, Russians in Montenegro, Russian interests cannot be, Russia is totally isolated. If Montenegro, we have like ethnic Serbian party that on the elections would go like Serbian Democratic Party. By ethnic principle, they must be part of the government. They must have 1/3 of ministers. They must have one half of the security services, like police or military, some part in the international politics. We would need to have an agreement, like in Macedonia. With this politics like that we have now, we Serbs, but also Russian interests in Montenegro are out. They are periphery. Nothing will change. In Bosnia is different situation. We have Republika Srpska, we have war. We had war in the 90s. We have Republika Srpska, Bosnia is divided. Because of that, because you cannot we have 3 presidents of Bosnia, 1 is Serb. We also have, if there is some important issue, Parliament of Republika Srpska has the right to make veto. So like Bosnia cannot go in NATO because of Serbs. Bosnia did not put sanctions on Russia because of Serbs. Serbs in Bosnia played the game. They did the job. And we in Montenegro did not. Because of that, in Bosnia, we have pressure. This year, in May, I write an article about that. We have US bombers flying over Bosnia. It was unbelievable. It was a message to Serbs. And like Milorad Dodik, leader of Serbs, said, we had war in the 90s. We will not be scared of your bombers. We accept your big power, but we will keep pushing our politics. And now, what is the problem? Like Republika Srpska has a lot of rights by Dayton peace agreement that US agree. Because of that, now US is openly crushing that. They want to take the land from Republika Srpska, and if they take the land, Republika Srpska will be basically had very little rights. After that, they will take police from Republika Srpska, and basically Republika Srpska would stop to exist. And basically, the answer from Serbs is very strong. They said we will not permit that at any cost. And now we have EUFOR force, European, let's say, army. It's European peace force, and also NATO bringing more troops. Let me just say the Brits. The Britain had moved 200 army men personnel to Bosnia. They also did something similar to Kosovo. And in my opinion, now we have war in Ukraine. the West military complex cannot give cannot give equipment to Ukrainian army as they need. They need a lot. Because of that, they cannot NATO have a war on two fronts. But after Ukraine war is over, in Bosnia, there will be problems. We now have problems, but in my opinion, escalations. That's for sure. Also, Kosovo. In Kosovo, with Albin Kurti, Albania Prime Minister, we have big problems. By agreement with NATO, Kosovo, Albania police and army should not go to north of Kosovo. They are making bases now. They are starting small ethnic cleansing of Serbs. And we have 40 bases of Serbian army and police around Kosovo. I will not say that Alexander Vučić, president of Serbia, will send army, but the pressure from people is so strong, like in 90s when Slobodan Milosevic was in the same situation. If they start ethnic cleansing of Serbs, Serbia will need to act. So in my opinion, and I will conclude with that, in my opinion, when the war in Ukraine is finished, in the Balkans, we will have big problems, probably worse. That's my opinion.
How easy it is to divide and rule. Once upon a time, we had one country, Yugoslavia, that existed for much of the 20th century, with one vote in the United Nations, with one voice in Europe as a non-aligned country. Now we have, well, I'm not sure quite how many countries, but all of them are anti-Russian, at least the governments, except Serbia, of course. Very, very useful for the EU, for the United Nations, for the United States, etc., etc., etc. Same old game. Baltic states, the same thing. We were involved and still are in what seems to be for the Western neocon, if you like, if we're talking about America, the Western elites, an absolutely existential war in Ukraine, using the weapon they created for at least 150 years to try and destroy Russia. That war is failing from their point of view for the time being, and it's going to fail, in my opinion, unless they enter the war personally, unless NATO gets actually involved. It will still fail, but it will be much worse for all of us. Why? Bearing in mind how closely Israel and the United States elites are interlinked, why did they allow this war to start, this massive war in Gaza now? Is it connected? Personally, I think it probably is. There are many reasons. Does anybody, maybe particularly Ishem, but anyone who wants to enter with some thoughts about that? Why now in Israel? In Palestine?
Can you sorry, can you repeat, please, the question on Israel? Because my English is not very well.
Okay. So if we bear in mind, most people accept, it seems to be accepted fact that Israel and United States elites are very closely linked. Yeah? They are in communication, they're working together, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
Why did they start this war now? We know that Hamas attacked, but they could have stopped it if they wanted to. I think most people agree on this. They let it happen and have started a massive war now in Gaza, which probably Israeli and the Western leaders hope will lead to the complete annihilation of Hamas as an organization and maybe the expulsion, or I don't want to use the word extermination, but we can't avoid it.
I understand.
What's the connection with the existential war to finally destroy and dismember the Russian Federation? Is there one? I believe there is, but I'd like to hear your point of view.
Then you want to, I don't know, if I understand all very well, it's I have to explain why the massive support of US to Israel.
Well, why now when the US is already involved in an existential war for its neocons with Russia? The most powerful military country in the world, apart from the US.
I think we have maybe 2-3 elements to see. That the link between USA and Israel is a very strong and historical link. The support of Israel from USA is very massive, and you know the origin with the similarity of history, of construction, of building of Israel, of building and USA. USA is like a white colony in a foreign continent, foreign country with like genocide of Indians. And for Israel, it is the same project in a certain way. It's a European colony in a country of Middle East, and Palestinians are like Indians in a certain way. In the representation of Palestine, Palestinians are like an Indian tribe. And you can explain the reason of identification of Israelian for Americans. It's an argument. There are another element, most religious. You have a lot of like evangelist sectarian groups or evangelist church with a very particular vision of Palestine and Israel. For them, there is like a Manichaeist vision, like eschatologic dimension that when all Jews turn to territory of Israel, Palestine, it will be the beginning of the new kingdom of God. And they believe in this thinking, they believe. And there is a massive help to Israel for this reason. And at the same time, Israeli authorities know this element and the joke with this element, and they do a lot of collaboration with evangelic church, and they have a very important place in the political system in USA. You can see, for example, in the moment of Donald Trump is absolutely not religious, but for a political reason, he begins to be a big support for Israel, and it wasn't his opinion before he became president. It's another element, but we have to understand also that in this war of Gaza, we are absolutely not an existential war for Israel. Absolutely not. It's like a big propaganda. It's more a propaganda for use argument to finish the question of Palestinian people in Gaza. And the Israeli power have to know if he prefer to have agreements with rich Arab countries or to finish the question of Palestinian cause and to prepare after 20, 30 years a big war, maybe with all Islamic countries. And the balance of power will be totally different. Then in my opinion, in my vision now in Israel, there is a big discussion to know what is the orientation to take if they want to be in situation of good relation with Arab countries with economic benefits, or to go in the logic of finishing the Palestinian question, but with a lot of maybe existential question for Israel in the future, because the balance of power is totally different than before. You can see now that Saudi Arabia wants to develop the nuclear weapon. Iranian maybe has the nuclear weapon or very close to develop. You have also Egypt is becoming now in newspapers to think to develop nuclear weapons, and I think a lot of countries of the region want to develop after what they see in Gaza nuclear weapons. Then it will be very dangerous for the future of region. And I think that the US position is a very difficult position, that they want to help very naturally and totally Israel, but in the same time they understand that the logic, the balance of power in the region is totally changing with new actors like China. China now has a very new speech. They told, for example, that they want to help Palestinian people. The Chinese leader Xi Jinping told that the Palestinian cause, it's a just cause, and China is friend of Palestinian. It's something really new. You see now a lot of economic agreements between China and Syria for building a new for rebuilding Syria. You have a lot of agreements, economic agreements between China and Saudi Arabia. all the place of Turkey also in the one road, one belt, and all changing in the region. Then for Americans, it's a very difficult position. They want to help totally Israel, but in the same time, they understand that the world is changing. And also in the political context of USA, now for the first time, we see in different media interrogation. In French, it's a sondage. I don't know the word in English. Sondage.
To
It's
resemble
you,
something, no?
when opinion survey.
Oh, sondage.
Survey.
An
Yes,
opinion
survey.
poll, yeah. An opinion
Yes,
poll.
survey opinion. For the first time, the majority of Americans are supporting Palestinian. For the first time, it's historical, and especially in the support, the population who supports the Democratic Party. And you know that the Democrat Party is more pro-Israel than the conservatives, the Republicans. And it's very interesting to see. And you see all the mobilization in USA, very massive mobilization in New York, in Los Angeles, San Francisco.
Yeah, in Great Britain too.
Students. It's now like the period of Vietnam War.
And we did not have these kind of protests about the war in Ukraine, either when it started for real, which was in the spring of 2014, or when the special military operation started. The rulers went crazy. Yeah, this is it. This is World War III sanctions. Putin will be at the Channel ports if we don't, and all the usual nonsense. For some reason, the world has woken up to Palestine.
Yes.
There was always, when I was a young man living in Britain, the Palestinian cause was obviously a just cause, but that's kind of a no-brainer. But it was a left-wing cause. It was socialists and kind of even Marxists and so on who were supporting that.
But you see now that
now.
But you see now in the United Kingdom, you see how the Palestinian question is causing a very massive political crisis in UK.
Do you think the Western rulers expected that? Did they factor in for this, or are they shocked? Have they misread the mood of their populations?
Shocked by the situation in Gaza.
Well, both by the situation in Gaza, but by the public opinion, the fact that public opinion has swung so massively in so many Western countries behind Palestine.
Yes, I think that now we are observing a big divorce between the parties, the powers, official power, and the population. Population are clearly, it's not they are supporting Palestinian, but they are very shocked by the image of destruction and killing children without opposition of Western leaders. It's very shocking. It's very shocking because you have a lot of wars in the world. You go in Congo now, it's absolutely terrible. But there is no one who say, "Oh, it's good," or "It's a good thing." And we are on Israel has the in French, droit de se défendre. It's
they have the right to defend themselves.
Israel can defend
the right to self-defense.
Right to defend themselves. But we see that they are killing children. They are killing massively civilian. It's not consequences of war. Now the Gaza population has no choice. They can't go out. If they go out, they are killed. And if they stay, they are killed.
Yes, you're absolutely right. The only thing that comes to my mind is it's not the first time. Throughout my life, I've seen images of Israel exploding parts of Gaza or the West Bank or whatever. The last massive attack, if I remember, even if it's not as big as this one, was in 2014, exactly after the Malaysian Boeing was shot down over Ukraine, and the entire world was focused on that. Israel went into, I think, Gaza and did more or less the same thing. This public opinion didn't rise up in Great Britain and France the way it's doing now.
Yes, and we can see the double standard. you know, in 2 weeks, the Israeli army killed more civilians than Ukrainian killed during the war in Ukraine in 2 years.
Absolutely. Also,
I need to leave.
or Lena, you need to leave.
Yes.
Yes.
Before Lena is going to leave, may I ask the questions, one question to Lena? Do you have some 5 minutes, Lena?
Can I say now something? I am thankful.
Oleg would like to ask you a question.
Okay, ask me, please. Yes, ask.
Lena, as far as you are from Finland, and as far as you are very reasonable and a professional person, I would like to ask you the question concerning Sweden, concerning the let's say uniting Sweden with NATO. What do you think when the process will be finished, and what will be the result for the Sweden and for the Finland technically after uniting Sweden with NATO?
First of all, what was the main idea of America having this information war of talking about Russian threat? It was of getting this NATO occupation in Europe for next 50 years. And if you think Finland and Sweden, we never have had any threat from Sweden. Finland had, Russia, from Russia. We have not felt any threat from Russia. Even Finland has been this kind of a buffer country between Sweden and Russia, who have been in the history sometimes, enemies. But it's like we have no reason to join this NATO. But again, Russian threat was very efficient, and America won this information war 6-0. And I don't see any other point of this Sweden uniting NATO, but this Baltic Sea. The Baltic Sea is going to be, again, for Americans, the inner NATO sea, and a very dangerous situation. At the first, when Ukraine collapses, then the Polish are fighting for the last Polish soldier, and then comes to Finland fighting for the last Finnish soldier. So this is really, unstable future for all of us.
So the Baltic Sea will be the next area of the war.
I think the Poland, they are hurrying up. They will go first. After Ukraine collapses, Polish are very bloodthirsty warmongers. They go first, and then it comes to north.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, but thank you. You were very nice talk to you. Yeah. Bye.
See you next time.
Bye.
So, what is going to be the outcome of the war in Ukraine? It seems to me, because of the new war in Israel now, the Western leaders are hoping that they can persuade Ukraine to negotiate with the Russian government. To negotiate about what exactly? Why would Russia stop now? Russia is beginning to move forward on all fronts without any new counter offensive. If you see what I mean, there are at least another 300,000 Russian troops that are training that have not been used yet. The existing Russian army on the ground is now pushing forward on pretty much all fronts. From the Russian point of view, it seems to me that they have to bear in mind that in Ukraine, since the very beginning, even before the end of the Soviet Union, but massively accelerated since the putsch in February 2014, little children are being indoctrinated, with a completely fake history of this entity called Ukraine, plus being indoctrinated with racial hatred against Russian people. That is going to grow into, in other words, any peace deal with an existing state of Ukraine will come back like a growing cancerous tumor to haunt Russia again and cause trouble for Russia. Personally, I see no other choice than they will take over the whole country eventually, no matter what it takes. negotiate with the other European countries who have territorial claims on Ukraine, Hungary, Romania, and of course Poland. With Hungary, it'll be very easy because there's a very clear demarcation line and a very clear Hungarian population still left there. Poland, it's a much more difficult situation because they will take these areas, these Galician areas they had before the Second World War, which are the very kind of powerhouse of this anti-Russian, anti-Orthodox, Western Catholic engine, if you like, which has infected the whole of Ukraine. We see, unfortunately, that most of the people, massive amount of Ukrainian soldiers who died in this conflict, no matter how rabidly and fanatically they might believe they're Ukrainians, ethnically they are Russians. The Galicians have been hanging back. Even when you see churches being attacked in Western Ukraine, there's a mass of young guys there. You know, at the same time, we see people being dragged off the streets. These Galician kids, they seem to be immune somehow from this mobilization and being sent to the front. That territory will probably go to Poland. If somebody has another plan for Ukraine or thinks there's another option, I don't think Russia has another option than to make sure that Ukraine as a state stops to exist. But I think the Western powers are now focused on getting a ceasefire, a deal, so they can now maybe concentrate on Israel, make sure that Hezbollah doesn't defeat Israel as it did in 2006 and so on. I think that's the only Western dream now. This war is distracting their public's attention from the failure of the Ukrainian counteroffensive, all this propaganda that Russia will collapse. The Russian public opinion won't support the war. They all want to be with the West. They all want to join. No, we've seen that hasn't worked at all. So please, who wants to say something about this?
If I would like.
Okay,
so
Marco, please.
So my question is, I'm thinking, does the Russian army has enough force to liberate Kiev? That's my point. I follow the war from the beginning. It's not easy today. It's not easy. Armored vehicles are easy to neutralize. We see that now. We see that now in Avdiivka. Russian army is going out. It's liberating parts of Avdiivka. I mean, Avdiivka is fortress. It's not all cities like Avdiivka. Avdiivka is from 2014. They built a fortress, but it's not easy. I hope and I cheer that Russian army liberate Avdiivka because of Donetsk. The Ukrainian army from Avdiivka is killing Russian kids in Donetsk. Not now. They are doing it almost 10 years, and that's the problem. I cannot understand why did not Russian army in 2014 when Ukraine was so weak. Let's take Russian regions. Kharkiv is 35 kilometers from Russian border. The second biggest city of Ukraine, Odessa. It's Russian city. Russians made Odessa. That's the point. When special military operation started, I cannot understand why did not Russia did not liberate Kharkov, Odessa, take half of Ukraine. The Serbs in Bosnia did that, and after that they started to negotiate. In 2014, Russia could do the same. In my opinion, the liberation of Crimea was wrong. Russia should support the Russians in Ukraine, like to make two-state solutions for the beginning, Novorossiya and Ukraine, like federal state to be, and after that negotiate. Not just take Crimea, and like we have like Donetsk and Lugansk, smart parts. What for almost 6 years, 8 years, Ukrainian army with help of NATO was building, make strong, and now we have this situation. You are right. I must say that now Ukrainian army, the main problem is demography. A lot of Ukrainian army men personnel has died. Now they don't have enough men. They have problems from recruitation. They do it from street. I watch video from hospital. I may go to hospital. He is ill. The military came and they take him to the army. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So, in my opinion, I hope President Putin and the leadership in Kremlin has strong will. They do not stop now. I mean, it's not easy. I know the army is on the front. It's not easy, but if they stop now, you know what's the result. In my opinion, Kharkov, Odessa. I mean, that region must be Russia. Kiev is old Russian city. I'm historian. It's old Russian city. Kiev.
Sure.
I mean, Kiev is old Russia. So
the
Kiev,
mother of Russian cities, where
Yes.
Russia was founded by Vladimir Monomark. Absolutely, Grand Prince Vladimir in the 10th century. Yes, of course, what we're seeing actually is a very neat trick the West has managed to pull off, I think unique possibly in human history. These Russian people who believe they're Ukrainian are fighting Russia with the same legendary tenacity that with which Russia has always fought the invader. And I'm sure, actually, I hope it won't come to this, but if it does come to the fact that Russia then has to fight American troops or Polish, they will not find the same level of resistance. Ukrainians are fighting back with the same level of tenacity that the Russians fought back in Stalingrad or liberated the siege of Leningrad, or with the same tenacity with which they defeated Napoleon. When this force is finally expiated, when it can't fight anymore, NATO will be weak by comparison. It will not be able to resist in the same kind of way. About 2014, yeah, but this is a very ongoing argument, of course. Why it didn't happen, I don't know. The popular opinion in Ukraine was pretty much 50-50 at this time.
I know why why Mariupol was left to Ukraine.
Specifically Mariupol,
yes,
this is a tragedy.
Answer this question. In Mariupol, there is such a factor like Azovstal. Azovstal is one of the biggest factories in the world of metal industry. And there was the owner of this Azovstal was oligarch Akhmetov. And Akhmetov guaranteed to the Russians that he will make order in Mariupol, that there will be no Nazi in Mariupol, that there will be a normal situation with the Russians in Mariupol, that the factory will work and will donate the economic of the Donetsk Republic and all sorts of stuff like that. And Akhmetov lied to the Russians. He had sold as much as he could the products of Azovstal, and he had actually run away. And his so-called guarantee to Russia was not fulfilled and executed. So the main reason why Mariupol was left for the Ukrainians, I would like to also to inform you that there was some 3-4 days in Mariupol when the town was free from any forces. Ukrainians went away, and the Donetsk Republic were waiting for the order just to come in to the city without any opposition. And there were some negotiations held between Akhmetov and Russian authorities, and Akhmetov had deceived and cheated the Russian authorities. That's why Mariupol was left for the Ukraine. Secondly, concerning to your questions, the next forecast, the situation in Ukraine, I would like to inform everybody that maybe even we will face the situation when there will be some Minsk third or Minsk fourth. Just concerning the Kharkov, Donetsk, Odessa, and all sorts of administration boards, borders of Lugansk and Donetsk republics. But I agree with you that the process will never stop, as just up to the point when Hungary will take their territories, Polish people will take some small territories, Romania will take some small part of territory, and actually Russia, of course, will take some, let's say, the basic territory, or free. The country will be Nazi will be thrown away from the country. When the war started, when Maidan started, it was 10 years ago, actually already. We had many discussions with Ukrainians. And when I wrote to the Ukrainians all the forecast, all the situation, all the danger of war coming to Ukraine, thanks to the Nazi gaming who came to the power in Ukraine, they had I would say it was quite hysteric. They had insulted me. They had cried to me. There was some very big, terrible hysteric that I do not understand a thing about Ukraine. I've visited Ukraine many times, and I have been speaking with them in Kiev and in Lvov, in other states of Ukraine during last 10 years. And now these people who were insulting me, who were crying to me, who were trying to prove that they're better, how it is better for their states. Now these people are lying in the earth, in the ground. They are grounded already. They do not exist anymore. Somebody had run away from Ukraine because they were fighting of mobilization. And of course, that is the main key of the situation. If you are so-called patriot of Ukraine, and if you are so sure that you know what is better for a state, then you have to be possible to be ready for the fight for your principles. If you so much hate Russians, then go and fight with the Russians. Why are you acting like a girl who's running away from mobilization, and now they are just jumping again in Georgia, in Estonia, in other countries with the same idiotic crimes? Who is not jumping is not Russian. How silly must be the person just to jump and to cry? Who is not jumping? He is not Russian. What process should be here in the mind of the person to jump with the words like that? And they have jumped in Maidan. They have jumped in Ukraine. They had ruined their state with these jumpings. And now the same people are jumping in Georgia, in Estonia, with the same words. How is it possible?
Mass psychosis. That's what it is. It's mass.
Thank you for the time as well.
Yeah, we're running out of time here. Apparently, Diana De Silva wants to ask Ishem Lemisi a question. Go ahead, please.
Yes,
I see you.
It's on the question of Ukraine.
I don't know. Diana Da Silva wants to ask you a question, apparently.
In the debate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Max, can we unmute Diana?
Yes. On it was on Palestine. It was on Palestine. It was a question of political consequences in Western countries with the new Palestinian conflict in Gaza. What is my opinion or vision? I think that we will observe more and more a divorce between the political elites in Western countries and people. It's clear that the Palestinian question is not a central question in Western political debate in Western countries. Clearly, it's something very secondarian, but it can open a new expression of political contestation, especially in young populations. It's my vision on the Palestinian question, like it was the same with the Vietnamian question in USA during the war of USA in Vietnam. It's my answer to the question. And if I can say something on the Ukrainian debate and the actual situation, idea of evolution to negotiations, and the question of Ukrainian people. First, on the question of the war, on the beginning of idea of beginning of negotiation, I think it's a question of reality. Western countries, Europe and USA, are not able to continue to help Ukraine for material reasons, that they are in a limit of industrial capacity. Now, the military industrial capacity of of the Russian Federation is more stronger than all the Western military industrial capacity. It's a fact. Then end war, it's question of fact. If we analyze, it's impossible for Ukraine to win during the war, but the initial objective was not to win. The initial objective was to put Russia in a weak situation. And now we see that in reality it's totally different. Strategically, now Russia is more stronger than 2 or 3 years ago, and economically the consequences on Russia are most positive than negative, especially for one reason. Then before the war, Russia was in a model of like a petrogas state. Rent, yes, in French, rente pétrolière. It's depending on hydrocarbons, yes. And now they caused the war, caused the sanction. They were obligated to develop a real economy, and it's in reality something who put Russia stronger economically. It is a big paradox, and in the international balance, Russia is now more stronger because Russia developed a new partnership with Asian countries, with African countries, with South American countries, and now you see Russia is present in Africa with a new nuclear politics, civilian nuclear politics. Russia is very present in Arab countries for new economical partnership in Asia and also in South America. Then you see that in reality, the balance of power is totally different than what we were imagining. And in contrary, Europe is weaker in situation of weakness. That they can't continue and they have to find a political situation in Ukraine. And in the same time, we were talking on demographic limits. All specialists are talking on maybe 500,000 Ukrainian soldiers dead. It's not possible to continue. They need new people for war. But also in Ukraine, the young people don't want to go to war, that they understand that they were like manipulated for doing the war. And on the question of Ukrainian people, I agree with you in the idea that originally the big majority of Ukrainian, I like Russian, same culture, same language. And it's very interesting to see, for example, that when you meet Ukrainian refugees in Western Europe, in France, in Switzerland, in general, they talk in Russian.
Sure.
It's very interesting. They talk Russian, that it's true. But you have the same example in Western country. You have Austria that talk, they speak German like German, but it's two different countries. The problem, it's not problem of country. The problem if that Western countries wanted to transform Ukrainian like a counter Russia, a country against Russia. And it is a problem. The real problem is in this place. But we have to reflect, and especially Russians have to reflect why, for example, before 2014, the majority of Ukrainians were maybe pro-Russian or philo-Russian. What happened? And it's a question of soft power. We have to analyze how European and Western countries in general are able to change. It's like a psychological war. They change the mentalities with this idea of European dream. A majority of Ukrainians are not against Russia because they don't like Russia. In reality, no, they develop like a feeling against Russia because they dream of the European dream idea. If we hate Russia, we will be in the Union, European Union, and we will be considered like Western countries. It's in reality, it's a true debate. It's a cultural question.
Yeah, I think this Ukrainian nationalism, in a way, it's a kind of a manifestation of something that's plagued Russia for centuries, which is West worship.
Yes.
We Westerners who are woken up and we live here in Russia, we often are more extremely anti-West or anti-European than Russian people themselves. You know? Many people, Russia is now more consolidated and unified than it has been since I don't know when, actually, to be honest. Yeah, since sort of 1945, maybe.
You know, add also 2 words to the previous speaker. Just today, European Commission recommended to the government of European Union to start the negotiations of uniting Moldova and Ukraine to Europe. Just came. Yes.
They'll never give up. You know?
Yeah, just confirming your words that they are trying to create the dream in the heads of Moldova, Belarusian, Ukrainians, and also some stuff like that. But they're not speaking the truth. That they are not speaking that the place of Moldova or Georgians or Ukrainians in European Union will be not the place of Switzerland. It will be not like Germany, not like the Austria. It will be like Romania, like Bulgaria, poor, robbed nations and countries. I have just the last time when I was uniting your conference, I was driving from Estonia to Russia through 13 states. 13. Lithuania, Latvia, Poland, Germany, France, Monaco, Monte Carlo, Greece, Romania, Bulgaria, Georgia, and Russia. And I have never ever seen Bulgaria such a poor and robbed as it is at the moment. You cannot even understand. It is the whole small towns are just dying. And they're not telling to Moldovan people and to Ukrainian people that the place on which they are inviting Ukrainians will be the place of Bulgaria, not Switzerland and Austria. That is the main key question. Yes, that's why I'm absolutely sure, absolutely agree with you. It is just a fantasy, illusion. I would tell it that it is an illusion. And Estonian people, by the way, understand it very well now because we have absolutely crazy prices for the electricity, for the gas. They are secretly buying Russian gas and they are selling the Russian gas to us, to Estonians, or on the behalf of so-called Norwegian gas, with the prices for Norwegian gas. The same situation with the petrol. They are telling some legends to the people that they are selling to us some petrol coming from Norway, which is it is not even possible. And of course, everybody understands that Finland is buying the petrol from Russia and selling to Estonia the petrol 3-4 times much more expensive than it is that is costing Russian. For example, I can tell you one example. In France, I was buying petrol. I was paying 230 euro at one time with the total. And in Russia, when I came to
fill up,
for my car, and in Russia, the price was 50 euro. So 200 euro and 50 euro. The same, absolutely, Shell or the Lukoil or the same petrol stations. Can you imagine the difference? 3-4 times difference between Russian and European prices of petrol. Not even speaking about the absolutely terrible situation in Paris, where it is not possible to buy 98 petrol in Paris, in the main city of France. Can you imagine it? Because there are some strikes are being held at the moment in Paris. It was not possible to tank my car in Paris.
Wow.
I was
Okay.
shocked.
Mhm.
How is it possible to achieve to face such a terrible situation nowadays in the center of Europe? So
Mhm.
I don't have some good news for the Europe at the moment. I'm just facing that the Europe is demolishing their economy, their states.
Mhm.
And when we were, for example, visiting Italy, we had to go through Sicilia,
Mhm.
and you can even not imagine how terrible are the situation with the buildings
Mhm.
in which the people are living in Sicilia. I thought that nobody's living there. But when I understood that the people are just moving there, then I understood that these buildings are not aimed for the demolishing, but the people still live there.
Okay.
And 80% of the buildings
Mhm.
of the old towns in Sicilia are in such conditions.
Mhm.
Can you imagine? So it means that if they had not done the reconstruction in the good years,
Mhm.
they will not do it now.
Sure.
Because
Mhm.
now the situation
Yeah,
is
sure.
much more difficult for
Yeah.
the Europeans. So that was the most key result. Plus, of course, your situation in Europe with the water. There is no water in France, in Italy, in Germany, in Spain. There is no water. So I don't know. In such an awful situation, to demolish additional your economic with the sanctions, I don't know, it must be enemy of yourself. It must be the enemy sitting in the European Commission, who is just who's just executing the orders from the United States and relocating the production from Europe to the United States and to China. Absolutely crazy situation.
And European people don't seem to have taken too much notice of this. We had very important movement, the Yellow Vest movement in France. That was something unique in these kind of protests, because it actually wasn't fighting for some cause that was invented by the rulers, like left, right, or Marxism against capitalism, or something like this. But COVID came and there were no more Yellow Vest protests. You know? Now we see that European people are waking up about Palestine. Why they are allowed to see the real massacre on their televisions is another question, actually. So, but yeah, I agree with you. I'm not at all optimistic, unfortunately, about Europe. I think intelligent people are leaving the West in general, whether it's Canada, Australia, US, or European Union. Intelligent people are leaving. About you.
Conservative family people are
yes.
Obligated to leave the countries where the LGBT community is being rising so rapidly, so terribly, that it is not possible to leave your children in the school because some idiots are telling that you have to be a boy or you have to be a girl. Absolutely crazy things going in. I'm just speaking, for example, about Estonia. People, when they are 8 years old, they are already licensed officially to decide: is she going? Is she going to?
This is criminal. I mean,
8 years old. Can you imagine?
And what is going to happen to the world when these people who are now children hit 18, 19, 20? What kind of marriages, what kind of population is going to be created by all of this? So at this point, we have to wrap things up. Thank you very much for your participation. Looking forward to see you next time. And since it's when was the last one, Max? 3 months ago, for August. The world has changed a lot already, so we'll see what happens next time.
Yeah, thanks to such people, we have the possibility to hear each other, and it is very, very important possibility to speak the truth, because not very many possibilities to speak the truth in English. In Russian, we have created some possibilities for ourselves to speak the truth. I hope that now we have created the possibility to speak the truth in English between the country, between the states. So thank you very much. It was an honor and great a great chance
Yeah.
for me to take part and to speak with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.